and welcome to another Cup of Conversation on BRT2 TV. I'm your host, John Guzzi, and today on the programme I have two old friends, great people, and we're talking about a lovely book. We have got Joshua's Woodland Adventures, written by Bill Haley, BEM, and illustrated by Pam Schofield. Now, unfortunately, Bill Haley cannot be with us. He's back in the UK. He was living here a few years ago on the island of Cyprus. Unfortunately, he can't be here, but Pam is with us, and she has illustrated the book. And joining Pam is another old friend of ours, of course, Hatice Kerimgil. And when I say of course, because Hatice is a lady who has retired from teaching, but has not retired from life whatsoever. She has been the inspiration for completing the publication of this book. And Pam and Hatice will be here on my programme right now to talk about this book and why you should be buying this kid's book, because it's very, very important. First of all, Pam and Hatice, welcome to the show.
Hello again.
Now, Pam, it's quite ironic that when I first met you all those years ago, I actually interviewed you at an art exhibition, and here you are now talking about your art again all these years. So it's a nice little circle, isn't it, Pam?
It certainly is, Jan.
You are a very, very popular artist here in North Cyprus, and I know that you are stepping out of your comfort zone when you are doing work like this. Now, this is the first time you've ever illustrated a book, isn't it? Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Pam, you're from Yorkshire and you've been here for many, many years. 12 years in North Cyprus?
Yes, in April it will be 12 years exactly.
And you've always been an artist?
Yes.
Drawing what?
Well,
everything and anything?
Yes, since I came to live here, I've painted North Cyprus in all its beautiful glory. I paint portraits, pictures of animals, anything that anyone throws at me, basically. I will rise to the challenge of anything. I've even painted someone's rally car that was their little baby. You know, which it's not what I chose to paint, but this guy loved his little car, his little Mini, so I painted it for him. This is a completely new venture to me because cartoons are not really my forte. But when Bill approached me to do the book, I wasn't too sure I could actually do it, and I initially turned him down. But he persuaded me. He said, read the book, let me know what you think, let me know if you can do anything to help with the story. So, so I took the manuscript home, and characters began popping into my head.
Right, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to say hello to Hatice, because Hatice, in this book, and I've read it from cover to cover, and it's a fantastic book, I really love it. You've written in the book a foreword or a little bit yes. about you, and we know from the book your link with Pam, because you actually won one of her pictures yes. when she, it was an award-winning picture yes. of the turtles hatching from their nest, wasn't
yes.
it?
Yes.
It was given an award by the Ministry of Tourism, was it, or Environment, or?
I'm not sure.
One of those, I know it was a very famous picture.
Was. Well, I'd seen that the print in the press before, and I liked it very much. And at this charity event, I won it, and I just was over the moon. And when they said that the actual artist was there, I had to go up and we met, and even though it wasn't too often, we would keep in touch every now and again, yeah. and see each other at different events, and so we became friends in that way.
And Pam told us about your involvement with this book, and she actually said, you know, you are the inspiration behind the book's completion, because unfortunately it's been quite a long time in happening, and because of Bill returning back to the UK and everything was really left on Pam's shoulders,
yes.
A chance meeting again yeah. between the two of you, you've sort of helped, haven't you, in the completion of this book, in
yeah.
having it published?
Yes. When Pam was talking about the book and having problems getting it completed, she'd raised the money for the print, but there was been problems. And also when I found out that it was for the aid of children who are in need of help in different areas. Those sort of things, as you know, are very close to my heart. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. And the book publisher they'd already chosen and had quotes, and I got a few quotes from other places, and it turns out we went back to the very first one because they gave the best quote, and again, as it was a nice surprise, it turned out to be one of my BTMK 93 graduates who owns the print shop, and they were very helpful as well, so we went from there.
And here you are today talking about the book. It's actually physically in our hands now.
Yes.
I bought a copy from you last week and I read the book.
Yes.
And I wanted to, you know, really get a feel for the book before we had the interview today. Now, Pam, are you personal friends with Bill Haley? I mean, how do you know Bill?
Yes, I've known Bill for quite a long time. They lived in North Cyprus for quite a few years, and I met him as a result of the markets. You know, that I sell my work at various markets, or have done in the past, and Bill and Jackie used to come along, and they've actually got a couple of my prints. They bought pictures from me, and also they used to run a stall themselves. So that was how I met Bill initially. He came to see me on my market stall to ask if I would do the illustrations for this book. And like I said earlier on, I wasn't too keen on the idea to begin with, but I always rise to a challenge.
You always rise to a challenge. You took away the book.
Yes.
You read the book yourself.
Yes.
And then did you think, okay, maybe I can draw something that will bring the book alive? Because, you know, you have really done a fantastic job, I believe. I don't think it's very easy, and the reason why I don't think it's easy, because if you had written the book yourself and had brought the characters alive in your mind, then maybe it would have been easier for you to draw it as an artist as well. But to bring a book alive that somebody else has written with only what is based in his words in the book is quite difficult. Although I do know that Bill Haley wrote this, he was inspired by his 3 grandchildren, although 2 main ones, and then I think, as you said on Denise's radio programme, Molly came at the end while the book was finishing. She's actually at the end of the book as a little baby sister for Joshua. But Joshua, Phoebe and Molly are his grandchildren. Joshua is the main character in the book with his Jack Russell, Eric, and then Phoebe is a princess in the woodlands. And so I think you had a couple of maybe photographs to work with for them, but all the animal characters are from your own imagination, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Bill gave me the photographs of the children and the dog. I had a picture.
And Eric.
And Eric, yes. So I did base the little boy on his photograph of Joshua, the actual Joshua. And Phoebe more or less came out of my imagination because he describes her very, very, very well in the book. You know, his writing is very descriptive. And so, and the animal characters, yeah, they just popped out, they popped into my head. I sat down and doodled when I was doing the initial picture of Joshua and the dog. That was the first one that came off the drawing board, so to speak. I wanted to get Joshua and the dog done, so I took that one to show it to Bill, and he was delighted. He said, "Oh yes, that's great, carry on, carry on." Some 40 illustrations later, here we are with Joshua and all his little woodland friends.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, like I said, I think you've done a commendable job, because it can't be easy, like I said, to bring something else alive. If you'd have made the characters alive in your mind, you know, whilst writing it, then maybe it would have been easier, but it can't be easy. So I know that you came a couple of years back ago with Bill to the radio interview with Denise when you first had this project together, and and since then you did a couple of fundraising events, because the idea behind this book is that Bill wanted to raise money, didn't he, for children in North Cyprus?
Yes, he wanted to write a book that was for children in North Cyprus, needy children in North Cyprus.
And he was inspired by his own grandchildren, which is a legacy for him as well, to give something back to his own grandchildren.
Well, I think this could be a story that he used to tell them. You know, he used to sit down and like bedtime story, and so I think this is where it's come from.
It is very nice, and I think once we talk about the book, it'll be more inspiring for the people to go and buy it. And this book, the proceeds from this book will go to needy children in the TRNC, and I think Hatice will tell us a bit more about that in a minute. But I want to go back to the book now. It's set in Joshua's little world where he goes to a woodland near his home, and with his dog Eric, the very, very cheeky Jack Russell, and he meets a magical woodland filled with animals that speak to him, and Princess Phoebe, the fairy, or whatever you want to call her, and he goes back in 4 seasons.
Yes.
And we start with winter, then of course we have spring, summer and autumn. And Joshua is a caring young boy. He wants to find out what happened to his wonderful friends during the winter. Did they survive the cold winter? How they're coping with preparing for winter when it's autumn at the end of the book? How they go through spring, the beauty of spring and summer. It is very descriptive, but I felt, and I think Hatice will agree with me there, that there's a lot of speech in the book. And it's something that you can actually read to somebody, isn't it? It's more of a bedtime reading where a parent would read to their child. What do you think, Hatice, when you read this book?
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of dialogue, as you said, and I can imagine the words being spoken by the different characters. I read something on the internet the other day that in schools somebody was suggesting that there's half an hour of story time, which used to happen when I was a teacher in the UK, and when I was a child we did have story time. Maybe not half an hour, but we would have half an hour to sit and chat about what happened in the day, and we would read the book, we read stories to the children, stop at a certain place and then carry on the next day. And I think it's a wonderful thing that children listen to stories being read by people who know how to read them properly, because it's a good way of teaching them how to read properly as well. Because reading is not just knowing the words, giving the expression, giving the feeling, the emotions, and I think it is something that should be, and Pam's saying please don't get me involved in anything else, but I would love to have this as an audio book, yes.
Well, who knows? Maybe that could be a project that you'll be involved with, Hatice, in the future. You know, Pam's done her bit. She's done all the illustrations for the book now, and I think she can be very, very proud of what she's done, because I think they are fantastic. And I think it's now a good opportunity to, whilst you are reading, because we just had an interview with Denise, and she invited you both to read a little section from the book.
Yes.
And you began with the first few pages, didn't you?
Yes.
So, Hatice, do you want to start it off? Go on then.
Okay.
Be a sport for us, and whilst Hatice is reading, we're going to see a picture of Bill Haley and also the cover of the book and most of Pam's illustrations. So start on the first page. We've got winter.
Now, if I was at school now, this is what I would be doing. I would be showing the children this, and I would start reading this way. Okay. But I'm not going to do that today.
Okay, you read to us, and then we'll see what Pam has drawn for this wonderful book.
Yes. Time to get out of bed, Joshua. Breakfast is ready. The early morning wake-up call from Joshua's mum signalled the start of another school day. Just before Joshua slid his feet out of his bed onto the brown fitted carpet on his bedroom floor, he wondered about the day ahead of him, hoping that today would not be so boring as yesterday or as boring as the day before that. As he reached the breakfast table, Joshua was mumbling away to himself. Why do parents send you to bed when you are wide awake, then wake you up when you are tired? Joshua didn't really expect an answer, nor did he get one from his mum. She just glanced over in Joshua's direction, shaking her head from side to side with a smile on her face as she placed a bowl of his favourite breakfast cereal, Cocoa Moons, in front of him. Eat up, Joshua. The walk to school will take a little longer this morning because of all the snow that fell overnight. About 25 centimetres have settled on the ground. Snow, snow, snow! Joshua repeated the word to himself just a bit louder every time he said it. This day has only just started, and yet I have a strange feeling that playtime at school is going to be so much fun.
Well, as I'm listening to you there, I'm getting goosebumps on my arms, back of my neck. Very, very well read. Of course, as an English teacher, literature teacher as well, you're very good at reading and bringing characters alive.
Teaching literature for 23 years in school,
Yeah.
and teaching it differently to the way it's taught in the UK, because most of my students were English as a second language students. I couldn't expect them to read the book and come, and then we would discuss. So I would read the book
Yeah.
to them and explain and ask them, get them to ask questions. So all those years of practice, and of course being a news presenter here at BRT
Yeah.
for many years has helped.
You've done a very good job there. And that was Hatice reading an extract, or should I say the first few pages of Joshua's Woodland Adventures, written by Bill Haley, who could not be with us unfortunately today. But with us is the lady who illustrated the book, the lovely Pam Schofield. So Pam, you were given this challenge of illustrating this book. How long did it take you to complete all the illustrations? I mean, when did you start and when did you complete the final?
Well, I know exactly when I started. I started in January, 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yes, because we always take a break from doing the markets in January. You know, this time of year, the weather's very unpredictable. So I know I began it in January, and that's when the first doodles emerged. It took me, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so to do all of the illustrations. Not that long really, because once I got going, I couldn't stop. I was really loving it. It was like taking me back to my childhood, because when I was little, I've always been doodling and drawing ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. But what I used to do was copy little characters from birthday cards and Christmas cards, and that's what I used to draw when I was a child.
Right.
And this was the same, and I sort of just went back to the childhood, really.
What a nice experience. And of course this book is for children aged, well, you know, primary school children, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, do you think, Hatice?
Well, it depends on whether they're going to read it or if you're going to read it to them. But any child that knows English, you know, a 3-year-old who understands English I think would enjoy the book.
Yeah.
If the children want to read it for themselves, even 6 or 7-year-olds, native speakers could.
Yeah.
But again, if they're in any of the English medium schools, 9, 10-year-olds, and in the state system, maybe a little bit older, but
Yeah.
it's still a good book for them.
It's a very easy read.
It is.
So when Pam and you met together again and, you know, you decided to help each other out, you sort of like led the way into how to maybe, you know, getting it printed and published. Did you actually have any say in how, as an English teacher, did you sort of like look at what Bill had written and make any comments, or was it completely finished by that point?
No, I did a lot of the editing. I mean, not too much, I must admit.
You didn't want to change his original?
No, but the layout and where the pictures went in, we discussed with Pam, and we got together in different places, because we were both didn't have one certain place where we could work. Sometimes I would go to her house, and sometimes she would come to Lefgosh, and we'd go to a cafe and sit and on borrowed computers and borrowed laptops, because that was another thing that made the process a bit longer. But eventually it was done, and it was only a few little things, like maybe a few spelling mistakes or punctuation. Paragraphing, speech marks, that sort of thing. And we tried to do it in a way that the speech looks different from the rest of the text.
Yes, bold.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice size for children to be able to read, and adults as well. I mean, if parents or grandparents are reading this to their children, it's a good size print for them to see.
I actually was expecting a simpler, even shorter book. I didn't know what to expect, but I was actually very impressed with, you know, quite, you know, a juicy book, you know, good read for the children.
It could have been in 4 sections, but I think altogether like this, I think it works very well.
It does work very well. Very, very interesting book, and I think a very special book, because, you know, it comes from the heart, from Bill, dedicated to the children here, and also in you know, using inspiration from his own grandchildren. You've put your own childhood memories back in there, so it's a very special book. I know it's been difficult for you, Pam, because you know a lot of the pressure is on you. Maybe if you were just given your pictures and then sat back and waited for somebody else to do all the hard work, maybe we enjoyed it more. But has it been an enjoyable experience for you on the whole? I mean, have you enjoyed spending time bringing these characters alive? Because you know you've got the hedgehog, you've got the snail, the earthworm, the owl, lots of different characters there, the mole, of course Joshua and Eric, Phoebe.
And they're all very funny.
They're all really, really nice characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy bringing them to life? Was it fun?
I did. I loved it.
Do you have a favourite character?
I love Sergeant Sheldon, the military snail.
Yes.
He sings.
Yes.
I mean, he's a character.
Very good.
So he has to be my favourite. Yeah, I like him.
What do you think? Always look on the bright side of life.
Yes. Funny stuff. Yeah.
And what about you, Hatice? When you were reading the book, did you get involved? You know, did you enjoy it?
Yeah, as I said, I could picture them moving around and I could hear their voices in my brain, and that's why I said I think an audiobook is maybe the next thing that we could do.
Yeah.
And I mean, thinking about this book for schools, if it was going to be introduced into schools, and as an aside, let me say that we've got a Turkish version that's going to come out as soon as we can sort it out. This actually could be a very interesting reader with a workbook to go with it, as a comprehension exercise, but also to get children involved with the environment. You know what's winter like in your country, you know, what flowers grow in the winter, what animals are winter animals, which animals hibernate. So it could be a more educational
Definitely.
thing, but obviously it would need a lot of work to
Definitely
do that.
a good idea, I think, there. But that's something that you'd have to work with, probably with the Ministry of Education, maybe,
Yes.
to get them into
Not
the,
necessarily
or
the
maybe
Ministry of
with
Education,
schools.
but people who are experienced in writing workbooks for children.
And getting kids to interact, maybe ask them questions about the book.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Answer questions.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite a good idea. Very interesting. And I'm glad that you're doing a Turkish version as well.
Yes.
Although, speaking with you guys, I know that you've already had pre-sales from other people who want them for their grandchildren, but we should be aiming for schools as well. I mean, do you hope to maybe go to schools and maybe present them with the book, maybe do a presentation day, introduce maybe Pam there? There's lots of aspects, isn't there? Art aspect, literature aspect,
definitely.
caring aspect, environment aspect, and of course helping the
others.
charity.
I'm sure, as Pam has already said in the radio programme, that some of the private schools, the English medium schools, would accept us going in and having a book launch at their schools aimed at their students. And as you said, because it is for charity to help other children helping children, you know, when a child who can afford to buys the book, they're actually helping another child either by allowing a book to be given to a child that can't afford it, or for the proceeds of the book to be given to a child that needs some sort of support in whichever way they may need it.
Very important message there. Now, Pam, I know that you also read on the radio on Denise's programme, and you read so well. And I know that you said that you like Phoebe, the description of Phoebe, which I suppose gave you a lot to work with, because when you get description, then obviously you know you have to have the illustration to fit the description in the book. You know, you can't make up something completely different to what Bill Haley wrote. So, would you kindly again read for us, and whilst Pam is reading, again we will show some of the illustrations that Pam has given us in the book. I think it's an amazing production. I think
while Pam finds her page, and one of the things that was very important is the illustration. One part of the book, I noticed that in the illustration and the description didn't fit, remember? The colour of the flowers was different.
Oh, right.
So we had to change the text. Obviously we couldn't change the picture, but you know, it's those sort of things, attention to detail.
which you don't think about until it all comes together.
And also, I do want to say thank you to Edja Soap, because she sat with me and I read the book over to her, and she made a few comments about certain things, and we added certain things in, and you know, it was good to have it run through by her.
Yeah, definitely.
And
so
reading it out loud is very important.
And that's why we're going to hear Pam, because with her lovely voice, she will describe to us Phoebe, who is the princess in the Magic Woodlands.
Yes, Phoebe.
She is.
I think she's already been flashed up on the screen. But
Yes, I think she's already been up there. So, Pam, take it away, please.
this is Joshua's first meeting with Phoebe in the winter time. Joshua, for the first time in his life, was lost for words when he saw Princess Phoebe. When Joshua looked up, he saw a young girl, probably no older than himself, sitting gracefully on a large toadstool. Her hair was made of icicles, shimmering as they hung down over her leaf-shaped ears, with the sun's rays shining through the ice hair and playing tricks of changing colours as Princess Phoebe moved her head. Princess Phoebe was wearing a long, flowing dress made entirely of white silk. This had been given to her as a gift from a travelling silkworm who passed through the Magic Woodland every year in the springtime to feast on the new sweet mulberry leaves. On her feet, she wore ice slippers with upward pointing toes, much like you would imagine a pixie or a fairy to wear.
I'm looking at the pictures whilst you're reading. Obviously, they don't always match what you're saying, but all the pictures, you know, Phoebe was up there, all the animals that you drew. Beautiful description there, again, Pam. I think we've already got two of the characters coming alive, or two narrators for this book ready. I think you're getting one ready, aren't you, Hatice?
Yep.
She's got her names written down in the list. So you might get a phone call soon, Pam, from Hatice. Come to the recording studios to record it. We'll give you the studio. You can find the people, Hatice. We'll record the audio CD for you.
You've got that
That's a
on
promise.
record now.
Okay, it's a promise.
BRT is going to do the recording when we find the people to do
Well,
it.
I mean, and of course, I also come from a teaching background, so
Yes.
I agree totally with Hatice, the importance of reading stories to children, because they try to read it themselves and they don't have the skills to read the words and put their imagination in place at a certain age. So for someone else to read it to them with expression and description, they can begin to imagine the characters themselves. And although, yes, the characters, my drawings have helped in this book, but I think that Bill's descriptive writing does come into its own, because you could read that story to a child without the pictures and still they would get pictures in their head.
Yes, definitely. I agree with that as well. But I just think as a book, without your pictures, I don't know, the pictures make it special for me, I think.
Every child needs pictures.
Yes.
Of course they do. You know, they like the...
It just adds that sort of...
Definitely.
The icing on the cake, I think. And you've done a fantastic job, despite your initial reservations about can I do it or not. Excuse me. I still think you've done a great job there, Pam, so
especially
well done.
these days, John and Pam, when children are so into television and laptops and internet, everything is so visual that good illustrations and pictures are very, very important.
Well, funny enough, just a completely different subject, but my cousin's son, age 7, Arda, did a caricature of Dr. Fazıl Küçük and donated the picture. And his grandfather is my first cousin, and his grandfather is a caricaturist, Serhan Gazioğlu. So Arda Arkan
saw that
is
in the papers.
you know, a relative of mine. Well done. He's only 7. They're great caricaturists. So, and he wrote in the paper, whilst other people are doing, you know, spending time on laptops.
I enjoyed it.
He actually did a caricature of Dr. Fazıl Küçük. It's now in the museum.
And it's a very, very good one.
Talented takes after his grandfather, my cousin. I'm very happy with that. I just wanted to get that in.
But it just goes to show that children copy what's around them. And
can be inspired.
And exactly, and that's why when certain parents complain about their children spending too much time on the internet, well, I say, first of all, have a look at yourself. Are you doing that?
And if your child doesn't read, Get a book. Make them read.
Yes.
Make them read. This is a great book to read. This has got an international book number.
Yes.
And I know that this book is now available because you have a book launch. It's coming up soon on Tuesday,
next Tuesday, the 23rd.
Right. And this is going to be at the Bestseller Bookshop in Karakum and in Al Sanjak, at Rustem Kitabevi in Lefkosha. And where else? Tell us where else we can get this book.
Again, in Lefkosha, Cafe number 3, which is quite near Rustem, and Luna Cafe, which is near the Bandabulya, and the Bedesten in Lefkosha, and also the Soulist Cafe and Bar in Al Sanjak. The book launch is, I think, from 11 o'clock till 2 or 3, depending on how many people are there.
Yes, that's this Tuesday, 23rd of January,
Yes.
at the Karakum branch.
At the Karakum branch.
And you'll be there signing the books.
Hatice will be there.
I will be there
I will be
too.
there.
Hopefully-
Refreshments are available.
Oh, I'll be there. No.
Have a cup of tea with us.
Well, I've got my book.
Yes.
And the book is 35 Turkish lira.
And I must say, he's the very first person to actually give me any money for the book.
I always give
You're
money.
the
I
first
always
cash
give. I'm the cash
sale.
donation. I'm the first, there you are. And the book is on sale for 35 Turkish lira. Very, very cheap. And the money that you raise, whatever's left over after your costs for printing this book, no one's getting paid for anything in this book at all. No money for Pam for, you know, drawing. No money for Bill for writing. The money raised will go to a children's, maybe not a charity, but to a children's home or to needy children. How will that be decided? Do we know yet anything concrete at all for Hatice?
No, we don't.
Once you get all the money,
Well, first of all, we need to be able to sell the book to have some funds to be able to do anything with it. So
Yes.
come and buy a book, and then we will have some funds. And then I think Pam and I will be open to people telling us about, it could be a child needs urgent treatment and needs some support. It could be that a child needs some urgent medication, or it could be that one of the special needs schools or the children's homes needs an article that we can fund.
how many books have actually been printed so far?
300.
300 English language books.
English language.
Is it right that maybe with the money from these books you'll use some of the money to print the Turkish version? Or is that going to be a separate thing? We don't know yet.
Hopefully we will get somebody to donate us the money to.
Are
to
we
print
looking for
it.
sponsors?
We are looking for
Of
sponsors.
course we are.
Do you want to say thank you to anybody? I know that you want to say thank you to...
There are so many people that I want to say thank you to.
In particular?
Initially, this book was Children in Need Foundation was the charity that we were supporting. But the
Because
Children
that's
in
what
Need
they do, what we want to do. That's what they were doing.
Yes.
Yes.
And we thought that the best way to get it to the children was through them. But of course, everyone knows now the Children in Need Foundation does not exist anymore as a charity.
Yes.
But they did have a pot of money left that they needed to distribute. And I was given by the Children in Need Foundation, they gave me the money to pay for the Turkish translation.
Right.
So that was done purely from their funding.
Excellent.
Mally and John are still involved in a way that they are, they're not involved with the Children in Need Foundation, but they have supported me so much.
Mally and John Torres.
Yes.
Lovely people.
Absolutely. They have supported me so much and encouraged me to carry on when things got hard and I thought, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I was ready to give up. But Mally was always really supportive. She always said, you know, come on. And when I was doing fundraisers, she said, I'll get friends to come along, you know, I'll help you to get people there. So thank you so much to them. Thank you to the people who came along to the fundraising events, because without them, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And also Hatice Bank, who gave me a nice lump sum of money. They were very, very generous.
Fantastic.
And basically, anyone out there who has helped and supported me in this project, thank you.
A big thank you to them, yes. And I just want to say that, you know, even though it's been a long time coming, I know that it is very much appreciated. I'm sure anyone who reads this book will enjoy the read. And I'm begging you, please go to the schools. Please go
Well, we will
and
be.
try and... Because I said to...
It's not the right time to go now because it's exam week.
Exam week,
So
not now.
probably be
But I know
after,
that
after the holiday.
there must be reading week, book week at some schools.
There is,
they have later on in the
there's
year.
International
So
Book Week, but again,
whether you make it or not for that,
Yeah.
but I definitely think you should hit the schools, show
that-
the kids,
yeah.
show the parents,
that is
the
our
teachers.
intention.
Yeah.
We're hoping to have another book launch for the Turkish book. Rustem has already offered to give us a book launch for both books.
Yeah.
I want to thank Ece Suat for allowing me to use her laptop, and also Murat Duran for allowing me to use his laptop. Because
It's good to have friends in high
Well, the-
places.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
But the thing is, it's just sometimes things just happen at the wrong time. Just when I was right into working with it, my laptop just died on me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have enough money to buy a new one. And
But thank goodness for great friends
Yeah,
who
definitely.
come along with their laptops.
yeah,
It isn't easy. I know it isn't easy. You know, it sounds easy. Oh, I can write a book. If you can write a book, write a book, please. I want to see the book. You know, it is very, very much out there now. Finally, after 2 or 3 years in, you know, the pipeline, it's out there now. It should be bought by anyone who has an imagination that takes you back to your childhood, or it should be bought by anyone who has a young child who they could read to. I'm going to start reading this to my son, because I've read it now for myself in preparation for this interview, but now I think it's time for me to read to my son, who is just the right age.
Yes.
I think he's, you know, he's 8, so I think he's at Joshua's age.
He's Joshua.
Yeah, he's Joshua. He can be Joshua. And we do actually have a Jack Russell at home. So yes, my niece's Jack Russell is around the corner, so we can definitely relate to this book. But before we do say goodbye, I would like for you, Pam, to read out a message that Bill has sent from the UK. As we said at the beginning of the interview, he could not be with us physically on this interview, but can you please share his words with us?
I will, yes. I'm in constant contact with Bill via email, and he is so thrilled. He's over the moon to finally have this book published after all this time.
Hot in his hands.
He's got his copies. We posted them to him.
Yeah. So he's seen the final.
Oh, he's got his book. He's thrilled.
Excellent.
And when he knew I was coming on this programme, he sent a message. Right. So this is what he says. My book is especially dedicated to the children of North Cyprus. But for children everywhere, I would hope that they will immerse themselves in a world of imagination. Learn like Joshua about the adventures that can happen if we allow our inquisitive thoughts to take us into another world. After all, Joshua's special place is only a short distance away from his own home, right on his doorstep. The first snow of winter set his adventures into motion and finishes off spanning the 4 seasons, helping Joshua to gain an understanding of all the needs of the animals that he encountered, as well as caring about the world that we all live in.
A big thank you to Bill Haley for taking the time out to write that message, and we send our love back to him in the UK and to the real Joshua, Phoebe and Molly, who as a little baby makes a grand entrance right at the very end of the book as it's...
Not too many spoilers.
Not too many spoilers. I won't spoil the book. You have to buy the book. Get the book at the launch this Tuesday, 23rd of January at the Karakum Bestseller Bookshop. And also, I think you mentioned on the radio with Denise that you've had some of your pictures as print. So if anyone really loves the picture separately, you have, I think, was it Princess Phoebe is quite popular at the moment?
Princess Phoebe is very popular with the little girls, and Joshua and Eric together are a very popular one with the boys, and the little hedgehog is very, very popular.
Well, I think I might come along to the... I've got the book. I might go along to the launch and get a picture for my son, just to round off everything.
Frame it on the wall.
Frame it on the wall. A lovely gesture. But thank you, Pam. Thank you, Hatice, for bringing Joshua's Woodland Adventures alive.
Thank you.
Thank you for making it a reality, because dreams do come true when you work hard enough.
They certainly do. We've proved it.
You have proven it. Good luck with the launch of the book, in English and in Turkish for the future. And I look forward to maybe recording your voices for an audio CD in the future.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, as they say in Turkish. And I put you in the hotspot there, Pam, but maybe I know that you'll find some great people to do the work for you. But we're looking forward to a great year with Joshua. and his woodland adventure.
Thank you very much, Jan.
Ladies, good luck. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
You're more than welcome. And with that, we've come to the end of a very interesting couple conversation. Please do get your copy of Joshua's Woodland Adventures, written by Bill Haley, BEM, and illustrated by the lovely Pam Schofield here in the TRNC. We're very lucky to have her here. Until the next couple conversation, take care, go well. Bye-bye.